In part 3 of my series of videos on archetypal gesture, we are exploring the gesture of lift, as well as talking about the 5 components your objective needs to have in order to be effective. Finally, we'll apply 3 of Michael Chekhov's laws of composition to the gesture to heighten your feeling of form and sense of concentration, 2 skills that are essential to the actor's work, right after this. Hi, the Inspired Actor here. If you're new to this channel, we are dedicated to helping actors become better artists by offering these quick, roughly 10-minute acting lessons. We try to post these weekly, so if you want to see more videos like these, go ahead and subscribe so you'll be notified as soon as they come out. Also, take a moment before you forget and hit that like button, as it really helps me out. And if you know people who might like these videos, please don't hesitate to share them on your social media outlet of choice. If you haven't seen my first 2 videos in this series, I strongly encourage you to do so when you can. In them, I introduce you to the mechanics of push and pull and talk about what archetypal gestures are and what they are intended to be used for. I also cover other stuff like the importance of using your whole body in your work, the actor's imagination, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you want to start from the beginning, I'll put a card up here so that you can do that, but you don't have to if you don't feel like it. No gesture is more important than another, and you can start wherever you like. So just as before, let's begin by going over the mechanics of the archetypal gesture. Lift. Begin in a neutral stance. Feet shoulder width apart, arms at your side, chest open and radiating. Inhale. With your eyes looking toward your hands, make a small step forward, bending both knees. Simultaneously, reach your hands downwards at roughly a 45-degree angle. Your palms should be flat and facing up. Your elbows should be extended but not locked. Exhale. Following your hands with your eyes, raise your hands and straighten your body. Your hands should end forward and slightly over your head if possible. Make sure your palms remain parallel to the floor. Do not scoop or angle them parallel with your arms. Change your eye focus to your scene partner if you have one. Using your creative imagination, imagine that the lift gesture doesn't end at the end of the physical movement, but continues through your radiating energy. Once you sense the gesture is at an end, return to neutral. Do not rush the ending of the gesture or let it continue after you feel it has concluded. Again, it is very important to try to accurately maintain this form for now, as even the slightest change modifies the archetype and can affect our psychology differently. For example, this is different from this, or this. What we are doing is creating a psychological and physical scaffolding upon which we actors can create nuanced, specific, and playable choices with simplicity and ease. Actors can get way in their heads when asked to make choices in scenes, and this is a way to uncomplicate the process. Remember, anything we are asked to do on stage, any objective or tactic, works best if it incorporates the following. 1, it is tangible. That is, it is able to be vividly felt in the actor's imagination and physically playable through internal or external action. This means that existential states of being or behaviors aren't very useful when trying to come up with a dynamic acting choice. 2, it is employing will force. It should be directed to or from a specific person or persons in the scene with you. In other words, ask yourself, what are you trying to get or make the other person in the scene with you do? This maintains the objective's power. 3, it is conditional. That is, it needs to rely on a specific response from that other person based on a relationship of want and need. It should not be unselfish or altruistic. You have to actually want something from someone else. This maintains the objective's vitality. 4, it is sustainable. This means that it can be played longer than a second or 2, but could possibly be played for 10 minutes or more during the course of the scene, film, or play. 5, it is specific. The greater the specificity of the objective or tactic, the greater the ability to spark the actor's creative imagination, creating dynamic and interesting choices. Now, that last one probably seems a little counter to what I've been teaching in this series, because I've been leaning into these 6 and only these 6 archetypal gestures for you to choose from right now. Please understand that these 6 are meant to be the beginning of your work, like large chunks of clay fashioned into a general shape. By adding qualities of movement, changing the tempo or rhythm of the gesture, discovering feelings and emotions within the gesture, refining the gesture, and allowing the gesture to change to reflect the discoveries you make in rehearsal, you will begin to find that your push isn't so much a push anymore, but maybe a probe into the mind of the other so that you can know what secret he or she is hiding, for example. Or let's say you find that lifting really feels right for a certain moment in a scene. Great. Now your job is to decide why it feels right. What are you lifting? Are you lifting someone's spirits? Okay. Why? What do you want to get or make them do? I want to lift her spirits because it will get them to... Wait, I don't just want to lift her spirits, I want to raise her confidence, because if I do, then she will be a better leader, a better general, and we will have a better chance of winning the battle. So I want to raise her confidence so that she will lead us to victory. Okay, now I have a very strong objective that I can play through the beat, unit, or entire scene that can be tangibly played and imagined, that is something that I can make happen, that depends on the other in the scene with me, and that is very specific, which gives me lots and lots of ideas of how I can play it. That is how this whole thing is supposed to work. You start with a general idea of what you want and get more specific. You can also choose to never articulate it through words and just make the action more specific and detailed until you find exactly what you want to do just by listening to your body and the feelings it invokes. You may even find you work better that way. Now, let's go back to the archetypal gesture of lift. I'd like you to try it a few more times first to get a little more comfortable with the form. Once you start to feel comfortable, I invite you to think about the 3 laws of composition: triplicity, polarity, and transformation. I've talked about these laws in a prior video, and if you'd like a more in-depth review, feel free to click on the card above, but no worries if you can't do that right now. First, let's look at the triplicity of the gesture. Where does it begin? Where is the middle of the gesture? How does the gesture end? Try to frame those 3 moments in your mind's eye as you are executing the gesture. Think of the entirety of the gesture as a story you are telling with your body. The plot of the story begins, unfolds, and concludes. The gesture begins, transforms, and ends. Now, as you are doing the gesture, become aware of its polarity. In other words, where you end should be very different from where you begin. Since this gesture is vertical in form and moving in a direction from down to up, really become aware of the lowness of your hands and the downward directionality of the beginning, and that complete transition to a highness and upward directionality of the end. Do not shortchange your gesture. Begin with as much polarity to the end that you can manage physically. However, it is also important that you are doing only what you can do comfortably and that you do not push, strain, or hurt yourself while performing the gesture. Continuing with the gesture, now I invite you to become aware of the process by which you are transitioning from one polarity to the other. Notice each tiny difference of form your body is undergoing in order to execute the gesture. Concentrate fully on your gesture now, from beginning to the middle to the end, throwing your complete concentration on the polarity of the gesture and the forms you are making towards each extreme. Now, let the gesture come to an end. Last time, I spoke about the importance of your full body and breath in executing an archetypal or psychological gesture. The purpose of this exercise is to strengthen your feeling of form and your sense of concentration while executing the action. This doesn't just apply to gestures. An actor, any actor, should have a stronger feeling of form and a higher level of concentration than your average person. Vague, formless acting is uninteresting acting. Developing a feeling of form both in your present action and for your character development as a whole will enhance the creative impact in your work. As Chekhov guru Leonard Petit says, action is the will of the character taking on form. The greater your feeling of form, the clearer your actions. The clearer your actions, the more powerful, dynamic, and engaging they become. The more powerful, dynamic, and engaging you are on film and on stage, the more masterful of an actor you will be. And none of that is possible without a heightened sense of concentration. A fully focused and concentrated actor who is sending himself completely and entirely towards an objective or tactic is one who is achieving what Michael Chekhov called inspired acting. Actors also call this the pocket, the zone, the flow, and many other names. Whatever you call it, that feeling of euphoric joy in the task at hand, the complete immersion of the character, story, and moment. This is the goal of our work as actors and as artists. Next time, I will be talking about the archetypal gesture of dominate, as well as introducing the concept of the artistic frame, which, as you will see, is essential to making each action you take on stage and in film a little piece of art. Until next time, colleagues, I'll see you guys later.